The Heir of Linne was a very attractive young man. He had such a handsome face, and he was always well dressed. All around his hat he had a band of lace. He had a lovely head of hair too. But the point was not the hair, it was that he was the heir. He was due to inherit the lordship of Linne, an ancient noble title with castle, lands, rents, a position of wealth and power. So you'd think he would be a very eligible young man. But he was also strikingly spoilt, self-centred and selfish, and thoughtless and irresponsible as well. That wasn't entirely his own fault. He'd had a very difficult upbringing. Hardly anyone had ever said no to him. He'd been able to have and do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted it. His father was caring but distant. His mother was loving but distant. And all the servants were either creepily sycophantic or just terrified of crossing him. The only person who'd ever said no to him was his old nurse, who became his nanny. And she'd tried to give him some idea of concern for other people, responsibility for his actions, generosity, honesty even. But in that environment it was very difficult. It was like throwing water against the stream. So he grew up to be a very unpleasant young man who was widely unpopular in the region. Now his mother was loving, although distant, and she realised that his character might cause him some problems. So towards the end of her life, on her deathbed really, she called him to her and gave him a little box and said, "You may find that things go wrong sometime in your life, and you may be in a position where you feel you've run out of options, you've run out of possibilities, there's little hope, you have no more chances, and you may not feel you are able to go on. If this ever happens, there is something in this box which will help you. But I've put a spell on the box. If ever you try to open it before you come to that low spot in your life, the contents will crumble into dust and will be no help to you at all. So keep this box carefully, and I hope you never need it." Now the bit about the spell was nonsense, of course, but she knew that he was superstitious and gullible enough that he might believe it. Well, he kept the box. And after both his parents died, the heir of Linne became the master of Linne, the lord of Linne, and he set about using his wealth and power to ruin his life, and ruin the life of a few others as well, I think. Well, all the gambling and drinking and whoring made him even more unpopular in the region. And he started to think that he'd run out of the local potentiality for debauchery. So he started to spend most of his time in London. And he got together quite a group of friends who were just as creepily sycophantic as the servants had been, but now they were rapaciously exploitative as well. It was a wild and expensive lifestyle. Fiddling and dancing was all his delight. Shows that he wasn't all bad. And along with those flash girls he spent every night. It was an expensive lifestyle for him and for all the other hangers-on who it turned out he was financing as well. So after a while, the heir of Linne, the lord of Linne, became the debtor of Linne. And he started selling things off, cashing things in to support his lifestyle. Field after field off to market he sent. But the land was soon gone and the money all spent. Back in Linne, there was someone who'd been born quite wealthy, but had worked hard to build up his wealth and power through frauds and scams, dodgy real estate deals, not paying his contractors, lies and bullying and intimidation, links with local organised crime. You know the kind of person. And saw in the heir's predicament an opportunity for further social advancement for himself. So he set out to buy up as much as he could of the estate, the lordship that the heir was selling off, and in the end he even succeeded in buying the rights to the title, the lordship itself, off the heir. So he became the new Lord of Linne. Back in London, the Heir of Linne, the ex-Lord of Linne, now became the beggar of Linne. Well, not even that really, just the beggar, since he was stuck in London. He had no friends now, because as you know, without a doubt, nobody knows you when you're down and out. He thought it wasn't his fault. If it hadn't been for Flash Company, he would never have been so poor. But he was wrong, really. The Flash Company had just been the mechanism for his downfall. Behind his ruin, really, was his character and his own choices. But he wasn't yet ready to accept that. Anyway, he thought he'd be better off destitute in Linne than destitute in London. So he set off, on foot, penniless, to walk back all the way from London to Linne, wherever that is. And he was in quite a state by the time he got back there. He'd had hard travelling all down that road. He'd had hard travelling, I thought you knowed. And when he got there, he walked the streets, dirty and ragged and thin, and no one recognised him. They wouldn't have helped him if they had recognised him. He went down to the poorest part of town, where his old nurse was living, since the new lord had cut off her pension. Knocked on the door, and she was shocked to see him. He was shocked at the state he was in. And so she took him in, because she still had some affection for the little boy that she'd tried to raise so long ago. And she gave him bread and meat, and fresh, clean water. But once he'd drunk a fine brandy and the very best wine of the glass, but now he was pleased with cold water to keep his poor lips from the thirst. She gave him needle and thread as well, to patch up his ragged clothes, because sewing was one of the few things she'd managed to teach him when he was little. Well, when he'd restored himself a bit, he was determined to go back up and face the new lord. He thanked his nurse and promised that when he reinstated himself, that she would be looked after and she'd go back to her previous comfort. She says, "What, when you're the Lord again? I think that's when fishes will fly and the seas will run dry. But I can wait. Don't think twice, it's all right." So he went back up to the castle, went in, and the new lord was having a banquet for all the local dignitaries, neighbouring lords, rich merchants, organised crime bosses. And when the heir, ragged and dirty, walked in, they all recognised him. And they were pleased to see the state that he was in. As he walked up the room, they started banging on the tables and shouting, "Out, out, out." The new lord held up his hands. "Gentlemen, gentlemen, show some respect. See what this poor lad needs. Come here, boy, come here. So, what can we do for you? What are you looking for? A little charity, perhaps? Shall we give him some bread?" "No bread, no bread." "Give him some meat, perhaps?" "No meat, no meat." "A little drink?" "No drink." Gentlemen, gentlemen, I think a little drink is the least we can offer." So the new lord took a goblet, filled it full of wine, held it out to the heir. The heir took it. As he started to drink, the new lord jogged his elbow and it spilt all down his front. "That's all the charity you're going to get here," he says. "Piss off, you wastrel." So the heir walked back down the room, and jeers and catcalls. But just before he got to the door, one of the diners pulled him by the sleeve and slipped him the medieval equivalent of a £10 note and whispered, "Look, We all know the new lord's a bastard, but there's no future in standing up to him. Here, get yourself the medieval equivalent of a Big Mac and fries. Thank you, said the heir. And he walked out into the street where it was pouring with rain. And he stood there, soaked to the skin. No money, no friends, no prospects, no chances, no hope. No point in going on, really. And he had appreciated the thought, but the idea that his life would be improved with a Big Mac was a bit humiliating. This must be the moment that his mother had meant. So he took out the box and he opened it. And the contents didn't crumble into dust, which to his gullible mind confirmed that this was the low point of his life. And inside the box there was a key and a note. And the note said, "Look behind the ivy at the base of the castle. A little metal door." So he went down to the base of the castle, fought his way through the ivy, and there he found a rusty metal door, which he opened with the key and went in. A small, featureless room, thick in dust. Obviously no one had been there for years and years. And in the middle of the room, there was a tall stool. And hanging down from the ceiling was a rope that ended in a noose. And that was it. No treasure, no note, no nothing. Well, he sat down on the stool and thought. His mother would have known that his way of life was going to lead to ruin. No possibilities, no hope, no chances left. And she left him this as an easy way out, an easy way to deal with all those problems. Discreetly, in a secret room. It was a loving thought, really. A comfort in extremis. And she was right. So he climbed on the stool, put the noose round his neck, kicked the stool away, and fell. And fell until he hit the floor. And half the ceiling fell in after him as the carefully sawn through ceiling joist snapped under his weight. And with the plaster came down bags of gold and silver. So there was a treasure, but not a treasure to allow him to go back to where he'd been before. His mother realised that bailing him out so he could carry on would not do any good. He needed to realise himself that his way of life led to nothing but despair and ruin, and he had to be prepared literally to end that life before he could start again. So this wasn't a second chance, this was a new chance. So, well, put bags of gold in his pocket, went out, went back in the main entrance of the castle, went into the dining hall, walked up to the new lord and said, "I have some rights here. Over hundreds of years, over generations, my family have built up all this up, built the castle, developed the region, made it an important part of the nation. Okay, I wasted it all away and I was stupid, but I still have a stake here. Give me the rent of one of your farms, and I'll work hard and make it prosper and pay you back." You work on a farm, make it prosper? I think before that happens, all the world will be one religion. Living things will cease to die. That's not going to happen. But I'll give you a chance. I'm a fair man. I always give a sucker an even break. Well, even-ish. I will sell you the lordship, the rights, the castle, the lands, Bitcoin wallet, the right to the noble title itself. I'll sell it all to you for just £1,000, provided you can produce the money now in cash on the table. Can't say fairer than that. So what do you think? Well, the heir looked a bit puzzled. So let me be clear. You will sell me everything you've got from the lordship and the title for just £1,000. Yeah? But only if I can pay you in cash right here, right now. Yeah. Well, the heir turned to the room and said, so are you all witnesses to this offer that the new lord has made to me? Yeah. I'll go further, said the new lord, confident in his domination. I'll take the money even if you just raise it from somebody in the room here. So what do you think, you dragons in your den? Anybody want to finance this young entrepreneur? They were all frightened of the new lord. Anyway, it was only the organised crime bosses that carried that kind of money around with them. Well, the heir started looking anxious and worried. Well, you just give me a little while? Oh, for fuck's sake. Piss off, you loser. And the new lord turned away in triumph. And then he heard the clink of coins on the table. The heir put down a bag full of gold and turned again to the room. So all you fine gentlemen can witness the deal that's been made between me and the new lord. Because they all hated the new lord better than they disliked the old heir. I'll be back in a little while to organise the transfers, said the heir, but there are a couple of things I need to do first. And he walked off back down the room and stopped near the door by the man who'd slipped him the tenner before. I never got that Big Mac. Long story, I'll tell you later. But I really appreciated the offer, and I'd like to pay you back with a little interest. And he put another bag of gold, £1,000, on the table. You can trade up from McDonald's now, Sat Baines, maybe even Jamie Oliver. Thank you. And he walked down to the poor part of town, knocked on his nurse's door. She opened the door. When she saw him, she leant out and started looking aggressively at the sky. Yeah, he said, there's no fish flying up there. And the seas are just as wet as ever they were. But I thought I'd pay you back a bit early. So it's your lordship now, she said with a grin. That's right, he said. And he gave her a bag of gold and a note to the castle solicitor to reinstate her pension. And he gave her a hug and a kiss and started back up the hill to the castle, a slightly better man than he'd been before he faced the noose. And that's it all.